Well, for more on this, Dr. Gilad Rosner joins me now from Barcelona. He's the founder of the Internet of Things Privacy Forum, and he joins us now. All right, Doctor, good to have you on the show. How do you think people are going to receive this?
Well, I suspect that they're going to have some discomfort with the idea of the introduction of more cameras into public spaces. And based on some of the reporting around this story and the information that's come out of the Privacy Commissioner for New South Wales, the New South Wales government has not been incredibly forthright or has not necessarily presented a large enough set of information to the public so that they can feel comfortable about it. Ultimately, the introduction of more cameras begs the question, what is the governance behind that?
So basically, the backlash right now could do with the fact that people just don't want themselves photographed, and those photographs being stored by the state?
Well, so I think that there's a question of how the public perceives it versus how somebody like the Privacy Commissioner perceives it. The public might find more cameras in public spaces to be creepy, and the Privacy Commissioner would ask the specific questions such as, how are you going to deal with the personal data that gets collected by these cameras? Show us your governance model and prove to us that, in fact, you are deleting the photos when you say you are. So ultimately, the privacy questions around this are making sure that the New South Wales government is being held to account on their promises, making sure that the technical architecture of this system has been reviewed by outside parties so that we know with certainty that the system is deleting images when it's supposed to. And also the thing to really be concerned about, as with all systems like this, is mission creep, to wonder whether or not these images, this system, will ever be used outside of the context of trying to deter mobile phone use while driving.
That's actually a very good question. All right. So as far as I understand, and I don't understand much about this, it's going to be using artificial intelligence. And I've been reading a lot of reactions online. There have been some cases of misidentification in the past. I was reading one comment by one driver saying that he'd been stopped over 3 times because it was thought that he was using a cell phone when actually he had his left hand up against the window. This is actually going to be tricky moving forward.
Indeed. So AI, in this case, artificial intelligence, means software that is better at sorting things than people are. In this case, the AI being deployed is image recognition to understand that when an image falls onto the camera, that the camera is seeing what it thinks is a phone or phone use. Now, as you point out, there are other ways of holding our hands and our heads that might cause a piece of software to be confused, to do a false positive. So ultimately, there's a question here about the efficacy of this system, the training of this system. They're going to need to show that the system works very well. Now, I understand that there has been a trial for this technology and that they are, as with all new technologies, working out the bugs. Because this type of technology will never be perfect, there will always be false positives and false negatives. So the question here is whether or not the system will perform as they hope, because if it doesn't, it will both inconvenience drivers, reduce public trust, and potentially clog up their courts, which is something that a number of parties have expressed concern about.
Okay. So besides tackling false positives, I think we all know that we use our smartphones today in other ways just by, saying hello to our mothers or our friends, or we use it for various applications. How does it differentiate if I'm going to use it on, let's say, if I'm using a navigation app to find how I'm going to get to point A to point B?
That's a great question. The system is supposed to grab people who are texting or are on the phone without a hands-free system. What I've read about this system is that if you have the phone in, let's say, a holster in the front of your car, and in theory, I guess you are hanging up a call or making a call, but you still have a headset, that should still be legal. And so the question of how accurate this system is comes into play, because that's a very fine-grained distinction between using the phone to text, not legal, or using the phone to make or hang up a call with a headset, which is legal. So again, it comes down to questions of efficacy of appropriate architecture and training of this system. We need to hope that it works right.
I mean, no doubt, technology is sort of taking a very sort of quick, fast pace. I only have 30 seconds left, but I want to ask you finally, how quickly do you expect it to sort of take off around the world? I don't have a lot of time left.
This type of technology, I mean, is based on the fact that cameras are cheap. Now, as you improve the systems, they get more and more expensive, especially as they have to work in all weather and night and daytime. So ultimately, I don't think this is going to roll out overnight. I think you definitely will see a good deal of experimentation, and I imagine that many authorities will be watching New South Wales.
All right, Dr. Gilad Rosner, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour.